Hi guys, this is Preeti and you're watching my solution. In this video, I'll be making you mark all the RS questions from the Neural Physiology chapter. You know all RS questions are important regarding university exam. Coming for the first chapter in the CNS, that is functional organization of nervous system. In these functions of glial cells are important and types of glial cells is important. Diagram also you can write this thing. If you draw the diagrams and flowcharts, you'll get nearly maximum marks. Next, from the chapter 135, that is synaptic transmission in central nervous system, you have this new mechanism of synaptic transmission is important for 10 mark question. These diagrams you can write, the steps you can draw, and EPSP and IPSP are important for 5 mark question. Properties of synapses is important for 5 mark and as well as 10 mark. Feed forward inhibition and feedback inhibition is important for 3 mark. And GABA is important for 5 mark. Properties. That's all from this chapter. Coming for the next chapter, introduction to sensory system and physiology of receptors. Receptor is important for a 10 mark question. They'll ask under definition, classification based on adequate stimulus, classification based on functions, and classification based on location. Pacinius corpuscles is important for 3 mark question. Properties of receptor is important for 5 mark question. And for 3 mark question, they may ask you all these laws like law of projection, Weber's-Fischer's law, and doctrine of specific nerve energy. These 3 are important for 3 mark question. Coming for the next chapter, sensory communications of spinal cord. Sensory unit is important for 3 mark question. It's not there in GK poll. You see the AKCHN and copied on, or else a single efferent neuron along with all its receptors endings makes the sensory unit. A neuron along with its receptors makes the sensory unit. And dermatome definition is important for 3 mark question. And this Bell-Megadis law is important for 3 mark questions. So totally only 3 mark questions are there from this chapter. Coming for the next chapter, ascending pathway. Dorsal column pathway is important for 10 mark question as well as 5 mark question. This diagram you need to draw. And what are the sensations carried by the dorsal column pathway is important. Anterolateral pathway also sometimes it's important, but most important is dorsal column pathway. Then stereognosis is important for 3 mark question. Dissociated anesthesia is important for 5 mark question. That's all from this chapter. Coming for the next chapter, that is physiology of pain, itch and temperature. Pain pathway is important for 10 mark question. There are 2 pathways in this, both are important. And referred pain is important for 5 mark question. For the physiological basis for referred pain, all the theories you need to write, that is dermatome theory, convergence theory, and facilitation theory, experience theory. This for 5 mark question. Then analgesic system is important for 10 mark question. That's all from this chapter. Coming for the next chapter, trigeminal system. There are no RS questions from the trigeminal system. Thalamus, thalamic nuclei, its functions, and thalamic syndrome. Thalamic syndrome is most important. All this it will be very confusing. How much you can remember? Try to remember. This thalamic syndrome is they have asked many times for a 5 mark and 3 mark question. Relay station is important for 5 mark. Sensory cortex, sensory somatosensory area 3 to 1 are important. This diagram is important. Coming for the next chapter, sensory abnormalities. In this, Tebetic syndrome is important, Brown-Sequard syndrome is important, and Spinal syndrome is important. Only these 3 questions are important from this chapter. Coming for the chapter 144, introduction to and organization of motor system. There are no important questions from this chapter. And 145, also they never asked any questions from this chapter. Motor unit may be important, you just see once. Coming for the next chapter, muscle spindle and ganglion tendon. Muscle spindle is important for 10 mark as well as 3 mark, 5 mark. They may ask you functions, this diagram, location of muscle spindle and structure of muscle spindle. This diagram is important. If you know this, everything will be easy. And mechanism of muscle contraction, all this for 10 mark question you need to write as much as possible. Alpha and gamma cholineage is important for 3 mark question. Ganglion tendon organ also it's important. Spinal reflexes, stretch reflex is important for 5 mark question. And inverse stretch reflex for 3 mark question, it's important. And withdrawal reflex, only 3, this withdrawal reflex we need to draw the diagram and then significance of withdrawal syndrome. Only these 3 questions from this chapter. Coming for the next chapter, supraspinal cord control and the descending pathway. Corticospinal tract is important, the origin, the course, diagram, functions, everything. This diagram. And then features of upper motor neuron lesion is important, capsular lesion is important. Then Babinsk's sign is important for practicals also, and for theory 3 mark question. Then difference between the upper motor neuron lesion and lower motor neuron lesion is important, and features of both upper motor neuron lesion and lower motor neuron lesion is important. Hemiplegia, paraplegia are important. Further you will be getting in medicine and all this this postings and all, you will be knowing these terms. And coming for the next chapter, that is chapter 149, regulation of muscle tone, posture and movement, spinal, medullary, midbrain and cortical integration. In this chapter you have the spinal preparations, that is the spinal integration is important for 10 mark. Complete transaction of spinal cord is important. Basal ganglion is important for 10 mark question. Inputs, output, connection of basal ganglion, Parkinson's disease, negrostatic projection, the functions of basal ganglion, dysfunction of basal ganglion is important. Coming for the cerebellum itself important for a 5 and 10 mark question. The functions, distribution, structure, connections. 2 signs for cerebellar lesion is important. Functional division, this is important. Cerebellum is important for 3 mark. Spinocerebellum is important for 3 mark. And cerebral inputs important for 10 mark. This table you need to know. Cerebral output is important for 10 mark question. And functions of cerebellum is important for 10 mark question. Cerebellar disorder is important for 10 mark question. In detail you need to explain. Alpha gamma cholinergic is this diagram you can write there. That was not that detail. Alpha cholinergic is important for 3 mark. Next, vestibular apparatus. In vestibular apparatus, the only question is sacculus function or odontolyth organ is important for 5 mark and 3 mark. Semicircular canal functions is important. And rotation, like rotational stimulation or foster rotatory nystagmus is important for 5 mark question. Vestibulo-ocular reflex is important. Next, functions of hypothalamus is important. Neural factors in like a role of hypothalamus is important. That is nothing but functions. You have code. Mnemonic you can remember through this. That's all from this chapter. And coming from the physiology of reticular activating system, nuclear column is important. Functions of reticular formation is important. And cholinergic fibers are important. Coming from the next chapter 155, that is electroencephalography and physiology of sleep. REM and NREM is important. EEG is important for 10 mark question. That is REM and alpha block is important for 3 mark question. And physiological changes during the slow wave sleep is important. Paradoxical sleep, that is REM, is important. Difference between REM and NREM is important. Coming from the limbic system. Limbic system is important for 5 mark question. The last sub questions are components and functions of limbic system. Papillary circuit is important for 5 mark question. Classification of limbic system is important. Addiction is important for 5 mark question. Motivation 5 mark question. RS questions you need to stress more. RS 4 questions. That will be recent questions. And cubular abuse syndrome 5 mark question. The features is important. Habituation is important for the next chapter, physiology of learning and memory. Habituation and sensitization important for 3 mark question. As a 3 mark question. Again, that's all from this chapter. Next chapter, physiology of language and speech. Broca's areas is important for role of Broca's areas in speech is important for 3 mark. Aphasia and dysphagia for 3 mark. Projections of Wernicke's areas is for 3 mark. Again Broca's area and this thing. Aphasia is important. Global aphasia, types of aphasia, dissociative language and sensory aphasia, global aphasia and motor aphasia, that is types of aphasia is important. Coming for the next chapter, neocortex and association of cortical with cerebral asymmetry. Concepts of cerebral asymmetry, that is cerebral dominance is important. Coming to the next chapter, functions of lobes of the brain and the cortical plasticity. Parietal lobe, its functions is important. And prefrontal lobe functions is important. Prefrontal lobectomy and frontal lobe syndrome is important. Cerebral spinal fluid. In its formation of CSF, functions of CSF and its mechanism of formation, composition of CSF and steps in formation. All these are important. Applied physiology of CSF, functions of CSF is important. That's all from the CNS. If you find this video helpful, please do like, share and subscribe to my channel. If you have any suggestions, let me know in the comment section. Thank you.